Then we preheat our oven. How you preheat the oven is first you're gonna press the button that says bake. Then you're gonna change it to the temperature you want, which is 375 for this recipe. Then you press start on, and it'll say PRE, okay? So bake, arrows, start on. Do not press buttons, especially the buttons that I put X's through. Do not press any of those buttons, okay? I'm not gonna be using this oven right now, so I'm gonna clear that off. Okay, so so you wanna do that at the beginning, and I already have my oven preheated for this. Okay, I'm gonna scoot this tray over here because this is gonna go for dishes for later. So I'm gonna move that next to the sink for dishes, okay? Then got all my ingredients, and now I'm ready to start baking, okay? So we're gonna be using our stand mixer for this. So you wanna pull it out, plug it in. Now the stand mixer has a lock and unlock option here. To lift it up, it needs to be in the unlock while it's mixing it. Want to say is lock. This is our paddle attachment, which we'll use later. You're gonna need your whisk attachment for the beginning of this step, and the whisk attachment looks like this, okay? So you're going to flip the page and go to the steps now, okay? So the first step that you're gonna do, we already measured out ingredients, so let's check that off because we know that that's done. Next, it says in small bowl, mix flour, salt, and baking soda until the ingredients are evenly mixed. So we have our flour, our salt, and our baking soda. And so we're just gonna get a small mixing bowl from up here, okay? So I just realized that I didn't go over all the equipment that we're gonna need. So let's do that now. So while the assistant cook is getting and measuring out those ingredients, the head cook needs to get out all the equipment that you're gonna need. So it looks like in total, we're gonna need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bowls. We're going to need our cookie scoop, which we already went over. And then before we had our measuring spoons that I already went over before. And I think I went over everything that was on that tray before. So additional equipment that you're gonna need is the wire whisk and the paddle attachment, the stand mixer and mixing bowl that goes to the stand mixer. You're also going to need a rubber spatula, which is in the drawer that says rubber spatula. So if you'll grab that out, right there. So we're gonna need a rubber spatula, and we're gonna need one of these regular spatulas for later for when we're doing the baking sheets. You're gonna need 2 baking trays. At least 2 baking trays. You might end up needing a third one. So we're gonna just set those right here. We're gonna need cook spray as well. Okay, let's see. Looking at the steps, using the wire whisk, beat on high, add eggs and vanilla, paddle attachment. Okay, we're gonna need probably another spoon. Will you just grab a regular spoon out of there? Okay, I think that's everything you need. It does have you use a cooling rack. The cooling rack is optional. If you have time, you'll use the cooling rack. Okay, so there's all the equipment that we're going to need, okay? So we have all of our bowls. We have our spoon, our rubber spatula, our cookie scoop, our regular spatula, our mix spray, our 2 whisk attachments, our stand mixer, and our 2 baking sheets over here, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So we're gonna put the flour in, the baking soda, the salt. Do not mix up the salt and sugar. It's important that only these 3 ingredients go in because that's what the recipe wants you to do. The sugar over here has a separate purpose with the brown sugar. Do not just think, oh, I'm gonna mix all the dry and then I'm gonna mix all the wet. This is not muffins, this is cookies. It's different, okay? So we're going to just combine those 3, baking soda, salt, flour. We're gonna just combine all that. Oh, be careful. Miss Martin's spilling a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna set that aside. Then it says using the wire whisk attachment of stand mixer, you're gonna cream the butter and the shortening. So I did this step, I'm gonna check that off. So I'm gonna just put the butter and just the shortening in this bowl right here. Okay. Make sure you like take all the paper off. Sometimes kids forget and leave little pieces of paper on the butter. Not cool. You stick that on the tray.
Why is it bad to have little pieces of paper on the butter?
Okay.
It's not edible.
I'm gonna put that whisk attachment on. It goes up, turn, and then it kind of locks into place. And then you're gonna put your whisk on. You're gonna lock it here, and then you're gonna mix that. Okay, and you're gonna need to stop and scrape a lot, just FYI. So we need to stop and scrape frequently. I have it on about a 4 or 5 right now for mixing. Okay, so now we got our butter creamed, okay? A creamed butter looks fluffy, thoroughly mixed. This step is really important for cookies, so don't skip this step. Okay, so it should look something like this. You want to scrape your edges to make it nice and neat. Okay, so it should look like this. Okay, nice and fluffy. It looks like one solid piece because I scraped it all together, okay? All right, now the next step we're gonna do, so check that off, is add both sugars and beat on high 1 to 2 minutes. So both sugars mean our brown and white sugars. We're gonna unite them. They love each other. Mwah. Okay, so now we're gonna put them back in the mixer, mix those together. This is a very important step. It's called creaming. Okay, so you got to make sure you stop and scrape. Stopping and scraping is important so everything gets thoroughly mixed. You don't want to have little random chunks of butter floating around in your cookies because that does not taste very good, okay? So we got to stop and scrape.
Mom's has a handle on it.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, and then one more scraping and we can move on to the next step, which is the vanilla and the egg. Okay, so you want to make sure everything is mixed. What I like to do is I like to kind of do the scraping motion where it kind of mows through everything and make sure there aren't any little pieces of anything, that it's all thoroughly mixed in there. It's really important that it gets all thoroughly mixed. It's going to look like this. Okay, so now we're going to do, we check off this step, step 3. Now we're on step 4. No. Sorry, I checked off too early. We're on step 3 right now. So we need to add eggs and vanilla and beat until fluffy and incorporated, okay? Okay, so we're gonna add the egg, add the vanilla, mix that up. Now while this is happening, other people can be getting the pans ready, other people can be getting the dishes starting to wash and all that. Great, so we have all of the dough in there except for the chocolate chips and the flour. Now we're gonna do something weird that you're not used to. Most recipes have you mix in what next?
Chocolate chips.
Most recipes are gonna have you put the flour in next or the chocolate chips in next. What do you think?
Flour.
The flour. Most recipes would have you put the flour in next, but the trick with cookies is you don't want to overmix the flour or it ends up having an off flavor. And so the secret that makes this one of the best recipes in my opinion is that you add the chocolate chips in next and you're going to switch to the paddle attachment.
I really hate how we can't eat the chocolate chip and the cookie dough this time.
Sorry, life's hard. Get over it. Okay, so we're gonna mix those in. Not a lot, okay? Just a little bit. Boom, it's mixed in. It just was that much. Okay, now we're gonna add in the flour. We don't wanna mix a little and add and mix a little and add. We wanna dump it in all at once because if you, like I said, if you over mix, it has an off flavor and the cookies come out too tough. So we want to dump it in all at once. That's really important because in cakes, you do a little at a time, but cakes are different, okay? Cookies are different than cakes. Everything has its own method. Okay, so do we want to turn this on super high and fast?
No.
No, that's bad. Okay, we're going to turn it on really low and it's going to start mixing up and you're going to mix it just until the flour's all the way combined. You don't want to overdo it, okay? All right, now it's looking really good right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop it right now. So I'm gonna show you what it looks like. So this is a very good time to stop it, okay?
That looks good.
Now you're gonna wanna eat it, don't do it, has egg. If you ask me later, I can give you a recipe for an eggless dough that you could just eat, but we're not doing that one today. Okay, so right now, the recipe is going to tell you to do the touch test. So we did that, we did 5, and then it says touch test the dough. It should feel slightly sticky, but not very sticky. So you should touch it, and it should feel kind of sticky, but you shouldn't have a ton, like if a little bit's on your finger, it's fine. But if it's like totally sticking to your finger, then you need to add in a little bit more flour. Ask me before doing that, because I'll have kids who are not sure like exactly what they're supposed to do, and then they end up adding too much flour, and then their cookies come out to be too tough. All right, so the next step we're gonna do here is we're going to use the cookie scoop to help us take off the cover so it's easier to use, okay? And then you're gonna get your baking sheets. You're gonna spray with cook spray. It says ungreased, but for this class, just because I have kids make too many mistakes and we don't have time to clean up their mistakes, we're gonna use the grease just to be safe. Not because I don't love you. That's all you need. Don't overdo it. That was probably a little too much. I probably didn't even need that much. Okay, so what you're gonna do next is you're gonna use your hands. You're gonna take the cookie dough. You're gonna put it into the cookie scoop. But the trick is, for this step, is you don't want to add too much. Now the recipe tells you to put it in the fridge. If you're at home, yes, put it in the fridge, your dough, after rolling them out in the balls for 15 minutes because it'll come out better. We don't have time in class. Now look, see how I left space in the rim? You should leave probably about a 1/4 inch of space in the rim, and I'll show everybody up close. You want to leave a 1/4 inch of space in the rim, okay? That's important. If you don't, they'll be too big, okay? And then you can just plop the cookie dough ball right out like that, and you'll just keep doing that. You want to do about 3 rows of 4, so you have 12 per baking sheet, so that's about 2 dozen, and then sometimes you end up having a little extra. But if you make them too big, they're not going to come out right. You want to make them this size that I just showed you, about a 1/4 inch space on the rim of that, okay? So what you're going to do, you'll do that, you'll pop them in the oven, And we'll talk more about that in a minute, so you can go ahead and stop the video.